Hello, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you all for joining me today. Today we're going to be talking about how to market your tax resolution practice. But before we get on to the content, I want to introduce myself. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Vinar AR. I am a tax attorney and the founder of AR Law. My expertise is in favorably resolving federal and state tax problems. I know the procedural rules in and out and how things actually work at the IRS. One thing you should all remember about me is you can use me as a free resource in your practice should you ever find the need. I'm only a phone call away if you ever have any questions about how to solve an IRS problem, about how things work at the IRS, or what to do in a specific situation if you find your client in trouble. Just pick up the phone and call me. Advice is always free. I even have a hotline set up just for accountants and attorneys who want to call me with questions. The number's on your screen. Hang on to it. You never know when you might need it. And without further ado, we're going to move on to today's content. So now it's time to talk about how to market your tax resolution practice. Hopefully you all have an understanding of how to do tax resolution, the kinds of cases you can take, and what to do in any specific situation. So now it's time to get into the how to get the phone ringing. We have a lot of content to cover, and that's why this is a 1.5 credit segment. First, we're going to talk about developing your messaging, and then I'm going to walk you through some examples of messaging and design that I use in my practice. And then we're going to get into specifics of different marketing techniques that I use. We have referral marketing, tax lien letters, digital advertising, organic online advertising, and inbound marketing. So first, what is marketing? The official definition per the American Marketing Association is marketing is the activity, set of institutions, and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. Simply put, just about everything you do that people see is marketing. Ray Kroc once famously said about McDonald's, he says, the clean bathrooms in McDonald's is not maintenance, it is marketing. Everything that people see, everything that causes them to have an opinion of you and your practice is your marketing. But more specifically, it's all about offerings. What do you have to offer people? First, the sooner you guys figure out that you as a professional service provider, not just tax resolution, but as accountants, attorneys, whatever your profession is, you have to think of yourself as a marketing professional first and a professional later, because the marketing always comes first. If you can't get your phones ringing, you don't get to be an accountant. You don't get to be a lawyer. You have to find the clients first. Now, it's also important not to confuse marketing and advertising. Those are two different ideas. Marketing is a broader thing. Advertising is a specific type of marketing. It's one component of your marketing, but marketing is much bigger than just advertising. So, in developing your marketing for your new practice or for your existing practice, the first step is to come up with your positioning. You have to think about what your core messaging is going to be, also known as your USP or unique selling proposition. You have to develop that first, and then everything you do from there has to be consistent with that core message. You have to, when developing your USP, your unique selling principle, it's important that you focus on the benefits of your service, not the features. Okay? Also, what that means is that you have to tell the user or the audience what's in it for them. Don't tell them about your degrees and all your credentials. And I have a mess. People have a tendency to talk about features. You want to talk about benefits. You don't say, I have a master's in taxation. You say, I know all there is to know about tax because I went to school longer than everybody else. Or that's also a feature. I'm sorry. You say, I can help you find the best solution for your problem because I am highly trained in this area. Okay, you have to focus on what's in it for them. What can you do for me? Okay, so things that you need to think about when developing your unique selling proposition is, who do you help? What problems do you solve? What are your core values as a firm? What sets you apart from your competitors? What have you done for others? Why should somebody call you? So take the time to think about all these things. What is it that makes you special? If you can't think of something that sets you apart from the next guy, then you can't expect your prospective consumers to think that you're set apart from the next guy either. This is very important and is probably the most critical step in your marketing, because if you don't have your core messaging in order to build on, then your marketing will not be consistent and effective. To have consistent and effective marketing, you have to come up with your core message and then build on that. Find ways to convey that message through all different channels. But everything has to be consistent with the same core message and the same set of principles. So what are we looking for when we do it, when we're coming up with our unique selling proposition? This is a very helpful kind of graphic or illustration of where you're looking to be. You want to show your customers, that you can offer them what they want. It's something you do well and something that your competitor does not do well. Okay, you can't be like everybody else in the business, or you shouldn't expect, different results than everybody else. If you just focus on figuring out what it is that makes you you, what are your core beliefs? What is it that you're out to accomplish? Why should people call you? And it has to be also genuine. Don't try to just make up what you think people want to hear. You need to figure out who you are and then figure out how to best convey that message and to come up with offerings for the consumer. Remember, marketing is all about offerings. You have to have something to offer them. And then you have a call to action, something they should do to get that offering. Okay, but before you figure out your offerings, you have to figure out what makes you special. Come up with, now you don't have to have just one unique selling proposition. You can have multiple ones, as many as you want, different audiences. You might have different offerings for them, or you might have multiple offerings, multiple things that make you unique, that gives them reasons to call you. When you think of your unique selling proposition, what are your core values? What is it that you have to offer? The next thing you're going to want to do is develop what I call your cornerstone content. Okay. What that is sales copy that conveys your offering to the consumer. Okay. I always start in long form. My cornerstone content is always a long-ish form sales letter that lays out your positioning and your offerings. You can have different versions for different audiences, okay? But they should all be kind of consistent with your core messaging. Once you have your long-form letter, you have your cornerstone content, then everything else kind of falls into place. All of the rest of your marketing, from your website to your social media to the videos you put, they should all be in line with your core offering. And they should all more or less just be different channels for conveying similar messages. Okay? This forms the basis of all your marketing. And again, you can have different versions for different audiences. In my practice, and probably your practice, I have two different versions of my Cornerstone content. I have one that's a consumer version. Okay, what do I have to offer somebody who's having trouble with their taxes? And another one is the accountant and the attorney version. What do I have to offer a professional who wants to refer me business? Now, I'm also developing realtor versions, mortgage broker versions. Marketing is a work in process. If you're not constantly doing, then you will fall behind. So you should always start somewhere and then just keep building on it piece by piece. If you ever feel like you're done, then you're not doing it right. Okay? Because you should always be a work in progress. You should always be striving to develop your offerings and to hone in your messaging to come up with stuff. And it's always important to incorporate testimonials into your content. Now, sometimes it's hard at the beginning. If you haven't had any tax resolution clients, you think that testimonial has to be from a successful client that you've helped in the past. No, it could be from a friend or a colleague or an associate who can talk about your values and your abilities as a person. It doesn't have to be a testimonial from a paying client who you saved their life, because let's face it, if you haven't taken your first client, or even if you've taken your first client, it could take years to resolve a case. So for those of you who are just starting out in this industry, don't think that you're excused from getting testimonials. You just have to get more creative. Now, what I've done in my practice is one of my unique selling propositions, my main offering to clients that most of my competitors can't, is I offer free legal advice. Because for me, I don't view my competitors as other law firms. My competitors are the Optima Tax Reliefs of the world, all the big tax resolution companies, and they don't offer legal advice at all, let alone for free. Because if you're not a law firm, in all of their fee agreements, there's disclaimers that this is not legal services and they're not attorneys and there's no attorney. So I kind of lean into that messaging in my offering. So now I offer free legal advice, and I use that to get testimonials. If you guys look up on my Google page right now and look at my reviews, probably 90% of them are not even from paying clients. They're just from random people who found me on the internet and called me and asked me questions. And I lived up to my offering. They call, I give them free legal advice, I tell them how to solve their problem. Then I ask them for a review, and then they go on Google and say, oh my gosh, this firm is so great. I had these questions. I thought they were going to charge me all this money. Nope. They just gave me the answers I was looking for. No hassle. Didn't charge me anything. Great advice. Best call I ever made. And that is a far more powerful testimonial, in my opinion, than somebody who says, oh my God, I owed the IRS millions of dollars and they saved me and I settled for $1,000. Yeah, that's a good testimonial too. But the guy who says, oh, you know what, I called them and it was the best call I ever made, I would rather have that 10 times more than the other one, because in marketing, it's all about baby steps. Okay? You always have to put yourself in your audience's shoes and figure out, what is it that I need them to do next? And how do I get them to do that? So in my position, if somebody's looking at my website and you're reading my Google reviews, I need them to pick up the phone and call my office. That is what I want you to do. I don't need you to hire me. That's later. After you call me, then we get you in, and then I want you to hire me, but not yet. When you're still looking on the internet and you're browsing around, you can't hire me. There's no fee agreement. I haven't quoted you a price. So what do I want you to do? I need you to pick up the phone and call me. And once you pick up the phone and call me, I will get you to hire me. Okay? So the testimonial from the guy who says, oh my God, I had all these questions and I was all worked up and I didn't know what to do, but thank God I called them, because I called them and they just told me everything I needed to know. Didn't cost me a dime. I was able to get out of the situation and it wasn't as complicated as I thought. That's what they need to see. They see that, I say, wow, let me call him. Because before that, without those kinds of testimonials, without that kind of offering and the free legal advice. People are just shopping, and they try to decide who to hire before they even pick up the phone and call anybody. But you don't want them to do that. At least in my shoes, I'm not trying to sell them on my services before they've called me. No, I just want to sell them on the value of picking up the phone and calling me, because that is the next step. And you always have to focus on the very next step. And marketing, I always say, is like herding cattle. You have to get them from point A to point Z, but you can't skip B, C, D, and all the ones in the middle. Always just move them to the next step. So if you're doing a digital ad, the messaging shouldn't say, oh, call me, we're the best lawyers in the business. It should say something that gives them a reason to click. And then once they click, you have to give them a reason to fill out a form. And once they fill out a form, then, you get the point. It's one step at the next. And testimonials are the biggest unkept secret as to how to get this done. But you have to get the right testimonials, and you have to get a system for getting them in place. Now, when you're thinking of your messaging, okay, one thing you should be doing is market research. You should look at all the other companies you can think of. You should look at what other companies are doing. Come up with what you like and what you don't like. Look at my website. Look at Optima's website. Look at somebody else in your market's website. Look at all their collateral. Read their messaging. Think about it. But don't make the same mistakes lots of other people in this industry make. Okay? Stay away from hyperbole. Don't try to give doom and gloom scenarios and kind of exaggerate the situation or the trouble the client's in. People can sense that. They see right through that. Okay, you're better off telling it like it is. Dealing with the IRS is scary enough as it is. You don't need to exaggerate things to try to make it scarier. And again, consistency is key. Everything you do, all of your messaging needs to revolve around your core principles, your core messaging. Okay? Be reassuring to people, not frightening. This tax resolution, frightening ads might get somebody to call you, but in the long run, it's not the way to do business. You don't need to scare people into hire you. You need to reassure them and let them know it's going to be okay. The situation is not so bad, and they will appreciate that a lot more. Be genuine. Don't make up. Don't tell people what you think that they want to hear. You need to figure out who you are and be yourself. Okay? I always take the anti-sales approach. You'll see when we start looking at my content, I try to tell people not to call me sometimes. You can call me if you want, but it's really not that complicated. But you know what? If you really need help, call somebody, and it doesn't have to be me. You'll see that line in my marketing. We're going to go through some of my marketing. That is the most powerful sales message you can come across. All of these people who are call now, the big flashy letters, the IRS is going to come take everything unless you call us right this minute, they look desperate. Okay, you have to take the high road. Your sales strategy should be very, very carefully thought out, and the end result should look like you're not even trying. You should try harder than everybody else, but it should look like you're not even trying. When you're coming up with your USPs, stay away from gimmicky offers. You're not selling carpet shampoo. You're not Billy Mays selling, Flex Fix or something like that. Oh, buy one now and we're going to send you a second one free. Look, we are professionals. Okay, those kinds of offers don't work, in my opinion, in this business. Be generous with your information. A lot of marketing material says, oh, call us and we're going to tell you the secrets. If you don't learn our secrets and then you try to they try to be coy with the information and try to convey to the user, oh, I'm not going to share with you this information unless, you call us or hire us, or they're coy. I take the opposite approach. What do you want to know? I'll tell you everything you want to know. Advice is free. My letters are informative. My marketing gives them the information they need. My website has very detailed blogs. I tell people everything they need to do my job. I'm always telling them it's not rocket science. You don't have to have a lawyer if you just do this, that, and the other thing. Here are the forms you need. Here are the instructions. And I'm so generous with my information that I come across as genuine, because I am. And then when I tell people, oh, you don't need a lawyer, you can do this yourself. Here, here's the booklet, here's the instructions. It's pretty simple. You seem like a smart person. 9 times out of 10, they say, no, I don't want to do it. I'd rather you do it. And you get them to hire you. Versus the opposite approach. Oh, I know how to save you 90% on your taxes. You owe $100,000, I'll settle for $5,000. Well, I'm not going to tell you how. I'm in the business of hiring. I've seen people do that. That turns people away. You have to be generous. Give them the information, because when they ask you questions, that's an opportunity for you to show them just how knowledgeable you are. Don't pass that up. And then again, in your sales copy, less is more. Take the anti-sales approach. And then keep your paragraph short. Keep your sentence structure simple. Don't use complex sentences. And use basic vocabulary. One thing that drives me nuts and that I hate to see is when people try to make themselves sound smart by using big fancy words. Okay, the smartest people are the ones who can take complex ideas and explain them simply. Okay, when you start to try to bend over backwards to use big words, you don't make yourself look smart. You make yourself look ignorant, in my opinion. Okay, but the person who can take these complicated theories and just give you 6 or 7 short sentences, and at the end you explain it, that's the person who comes across as smart, not the one who tries to confuse their readers. Now, once you have your messaging and you figure out what you want to say, next is you have to come up with your design elements. Okay? The very most important thing in marketing is your copy. Don't let anybody tell you differently. Okay, your messaging is key. What you say has to resonate with people, but a very close second is how you say it. Okay, if you don't have the right design elements, people will not receive your message. You need to be inviting. You don't need to turn them off, because if you want them to receive your message, they have to actually see it and want to see it and not be turned away. Okay? First things first, if you don't already have a logo, get one. It doesn't need to be fancy. You don't need to make it over-designed. Word marks are fine. You guys see my logo on the screen. It's not complicated. And the other thing is, it's only 2 colors. There's black and there's blue. And then the gray is just a shade of black. I do that because I do a lot of printing, and it keeps my printing costs lower. And I also like the look of 2 color logos versus too many colors. We're not selling preschools. We're not marketing to children. We're all professionals. And what you do should look professional. And so to do that, it should not be bright and colorful and flashy. That is not the way to convey yourself, in my opinion. There are some law commercials you see on TV. There's one guy called Law Hawk. They have these crazy over-the-top commercials that might get millions of views on YouTube, but I can bet you that they never got a single client. You don't want to come off like a used car salesman. You have to be distinguished and look like you're not trying to get them to call you. The whole point is to do the anti-design design. Everything needs to look like you're not even trying. Okay, but after you come up with a logo, you figure out your firm colors. Now, the colors are not just the 2 colors you use in your logo. They're the accent colors on your website or in your design. Everything you do should have the same color scheme. You should not try different things everywhere. When people click on your banner ad, it should look like your website, which should look like your brochure, which should look like your business card. Everything should use the same 3 or 4 colors. Okay, come up with a font. My font is Helvetica. All my marketing is in Helvetica font. You look at that font, even my logo where it says AR Law, that is Helvetica font. And that font becomes part of your firm identity. It's as important as the colors is to come up with what is your marketing font. And then you're also going to come up with other design elements. There are things that you would use in your logos, on your website other than your logo. Like I have my phone number, I have buttons that go on my forms. All of that is kind of designed and consistent, and it goes on all of my marketing. Okay, and then same thing with your images. You need to come up with your photos that you're going to use in your marketing. You don't have to hire a photographer and take pictures. Stock photos work fine, but you need to come up with maybe 10 photos that you use in all your marketing that people start to get used to seeing over and over again. And don't try to just do a different photo every time, because again, just like with messaging, consistency is key with your design. If you want people to remember you, if you want people to recognize you, it's not just about having consistent messaging and putting your name and logo. All your design should start to look consistent. People should be able to recognize your work. If you were to take your logo off your marketing and show it to somebody who's one of your fans, they should recognize your work and say, oh yeah, that's AR Law. You know, they shouldn't have to see your name to recognize your firm. Some best practices when you do your design, when you pick your colors, stay away from bright, flashy colors. Okay? Not just in your logo, but even in your calls to action and your other stuff. Now, this is a balanced approach because you want to get the consumer to look at things that you want to call their attention to. You know, everybody has a form on their website or something that is more important that you want people to draw their attention to. You can do that without using, school bus yellow everywhere. It doesn't have to be bright, flashy colors. It can just be a different color. You can have yellow. I use yellow a lot, but it's not bright yellow. It's a muted yellow. And it has the same effect. When you compare it on my website, it stands out just like I want it to, without an annoying pop-up or, big flashy colors. The other thing is, don't type in all caps. Never, ever. Look at the caps lock on my screen where it says don't type in all caps. It's not aesthetically pleasing in my opinion, but that's not what it's about. It's not about aesthetics. Everybody has a different opinion. It's about how the human brain works. When you first learn to read, you learn what sounds every letter makes, and you learn how to smush the sounds together, and you learn phonetically, and you'd have to sound out your words, okay? As you get better at reading and better, and you get older, naturally, your brain starts to recognize the shapes of certain words. Glance at a word, and you know what it says without having to process every individual letter. You guys probably don't realize that you're doing that when you're reading a book, and you just fly through and people are speed readers. It's because they're not stopping to process every letter and figure out what every word says, because subconsciously they know the shape of the word. And you take all that away when you use all caps. People aren't used to reading in all caps. And when you type in all caps, they have to stop and struggle to read through it. Okay, it might be okay on like a button, but still, even then, if you notice on my website, all my design, the only place I have all caps is in my logo. I never use all caps, and specifically for that reason is because it interrupts the flow of the information. Okay, they have to look at all the words and recognize them. And again, take the anti-design approach. Think for a minute about your Apple products. Everybody's probably knows Apple's logo and Apple's design. It's just a simple apple with a bite taken out in the middle of usually something that's very plain. If you look at their advertisements on the magazine, it's probably 95% white space. And you look at it and you say, oh, I can do that. You just take the logo, put it in the middle of the page. But no, they put probably more effort than anybody else does into their design. But when it's done, you look at it and you say, oh, they didn't even hire a designer. They just, you can do that real simple. You just pop the logo in the center of the page and you're done. But from their point of view, and, you'll see with my marketing material, that it doesn't look over-designed. That's the point. Everybody wants to fill the page. So when you're doing your design, always remember that less is more. Don't feel like you need to fill the page, okay? White space is your friend. Okay, a common mistake designers make is that they feel obligated to fill up all the space and to use all the space, but that's not the right way to do it. You can look at a design and instantly tell if something looks like it was done by a professional, if it looks like something that you would see in a magazine or on a billboard or something that a national company would do, and then you look at something that an amateur does, and your eyes can recognize right away. You say, oh, that doesn't look like amateur. At least mine can. But usually what you're really recognizing is when somebody's over-designing. They have too much stuff. It's too flashy. you can tell that they're trying too hard. Okay, everything you do should come out to look simple and plain, and it look like a kindergartner could have done it. You just have a few things, everything's small. Okay, in my practice, I have what's called the 30% smaller rule. I like to always err on the side of making things too small. If you think it's too small, it should be borderline where you're like, oh, that's just way too small. So like whenever I'm working with a new designer, if I have somebody design something, I'll ask them for it and then they'll send it back to me. And pretty much before I even open their design and look at it, I'll email them back and say, make the logo 30% smaller. Okay, because every time, always people want to err on the side. They think that, my logo needs to get in front of people. I used to do the same thing. I had I have letterheads that I would be embarrassed to show you guys now because I thought that you have to be obnoxiously large with your logo. You should, be in your face with people, and you should always be top of mind. And I'd oversize my logo, I'd oversize my design elements, I'd be too shouty, because I thought I read a lot of things that said that's how you do it. That's how you get people's attention. You have to grab their attention and hold it. But it frankly just didn't work. Now I take the high road. I take the anti-design approach. I try to make it look like I didn't try to design it. And then I make everything smaller. And then, my phone started ringing off the hook. And, we're in the professional services business. We're not selling gimmicks. We're not selling toys. We're not out, trying to put product in people's hands that they don't need. People, when they're looking for a professional, want somebody who's distinguished and classy and knows what they're doing. They're not looking for a used car salesman type person. So always remember that with your design. We're going to move on to our first polling question. And then when we get back, we'll start going over some specific examples. So welcome back, everybody. Now that I've walked you through some of the best practices on how to develop your messaging and your design, now I'm going to show you guys how I do it in my practice. Feel free to draw inspiration from anything I do, but you have to take what I do and what other people do and come up with your own method, because my marketing was designed around who I am as a person and who I am as a firm. You might not have the same messaging. I just want to show you guys examples so you can see how I've found to be my best part. So now I'm going to show you guys my cornerstone content. Where it really is in my firm brochure. Okay, I'm a big fan of trifold brochures. You can love them or hate them, use them if you want, don't if you don't. They're not, some people think they're critical to your practice. I don't put them on that high of a pedestal, but that is where my content is. So this is what my brochure looks like. This is the outside. So you're seeing the front flap, the back flap, and the inside flap. Notice on the front, the first line is, there is no need to face your tax problem alone. We will help protect your bank accounts and property. That is one of my value propositions. That is what I have to offer the clients. And that is what my main offering is: protection. We protect your bank accounts and your property from the IRS. So that is the first line. And then I have a teaser line to get people to open the brochure. It says, see inside 5 guidelines for handling your tax situation. That is the title of my cornerstone content. And then when people open up my brochure, this is what they see. Now I'm going to go through the content with you. I'm going to just read through it quickly because it might be hard for you guys to see on the screen, but it's important that you understand and listen to it, because it all works together. And this cornerstone content, this is sales copy. When you read it, it should walk you through the conclusion that you need to pick up the phone and call me, but without being too pushy. So if you're ready, here we go. Starts with the headline: the IRS can be intimidating. If you have a tax problem, you most likely need to speak with a good tax lawyer. Notice I say you most likely. I'm not saying call now, the IRS is going to take your stuff, only we can protect you. I'm just saying that if you have a problem, you probably should talk to a good tax lawyer. And then I say Vinar AR and his firm are truly competent and ethical tax lawyers. who will vigorously defend your rights. We know how to protect your bank accounts and your property, stop the IRS from harassing you, and negotiate settlements for a fraction of the amount. These are some of my offerings. And then here's some of my unique selling propositions, my value propositions, what makes me separate. Tax law is all we do. That sets me apart from other lawyers. We know how things actually work at the IRS. We can favorably resolve your federal or state, personal or business tax problems, anything from unfiled tax returns to foreign bank account issues. If you've fallen behind on your taxes, or if you're facing a wage garnishment, a bank levy, tax lien, or an audit, have a look at the following 5 basic guidelines on how best to proceed with or without AR law. There's the anti-sales. I'm giving them valuable information, and I'm not requiring them to hire me. Here's some information that you'll find valuable, whether you decide to use me or do it yourself or use someone else. The information is still valuable. First guideline, you will need to take action. The IRS doesn't even need a court judgment to freeze your bank accounts, garnish your wages, or seize your property. That's my scaring line. I'm scaring them, but without using hyperbole. Everything I said is exactly true without trying to oversell the situation. You have to tell them, this is a serious situation they're dealing with without trying to overdo it. Next, your first move is very important. You can try to handle the legal matter yourself if it's simple enough, or you can talk to the person who can effectively fight the IRS on your behalf. By calling their attention to the importance of the first move, I am very subtly discouraging them from trying to solve the problem on their own for fear that they might take the first step wrong. And if you take the first step wrong, sometimes you can't fix that. And then interview your tax lawyer. This is a guideline I put in there because most of the firms in this business, they say they have tax attorneys, but you'll never really get to talk to them, at least not before you hire them. I'm trying to encourage, if they're going to call around, ask to speak directly to a tax lawyer. So it says when you call, ask to speak with a tax lawyer, with the tax lawyer who will represent you. Important, there are many tax relief scam companies out there. One tip-off is how they won't easily let you speak with a real lawyer. Also, make sure your attorney has a master of laws and taxation. See, now I'm steering them away from my competitors. I'm giving them my unique selling points. What makes me different is that on the very first call, we will let you talk to an attorney. It's free, no obligation, free legal advice. Most other firms in this space cannot offer that, okay? Especially the big firms. I don't need to set myself apart from every single firm in this space, just my main competitors. Because, the other smaller competitors, clients would have to find them first before you have to really worry about them as a threat. So focus on setting yourself apart from who you consider to be your main competitors. 4, gather information on your situation. The first consultation with your tax lawyer should be free, and the attorney should be willing to broadly review your case and give you some general thoughts. Ideally, this initial consultation will be a face-to-face meeting, so you can judge the attorney's experience and character. You can probably tell I wrote that before the coronavirus pandemic. The face-to-face advice still holds up, but I would put something, if I was writing this today, about putting a Zoom meeting in place or doing a web meeting, and just make sure that you get to look the person in the eyes. It doesn't have to be in person. And then number 5, understand that you have options. Do not let the tax auditor scare you. A savvy tax lawyer aggressively negotiates settlements for you, has a deep knowledge of the law and tax agency inner workings, and safeguards your rights as a citizen. Now notice, no complex verbiage, no big words, everything's very simply put, and gives them 5 things that are helpful tips when looking for a tax lawyer. There's the valuable information. Does not try to oversell them, but those 5 tips kind of subtly take them to the conclusion that they should probably call me. And those who haven't figured it out yet, I go to a good next step at no cost. Consider AR Law, a reputable and local firm. We favor an individualized approach during this stressful time in your life. Consider AR Law. It's not a pushy sales pitch. I'm not trying to tell them that I'm the only person who can help them or that they have to call me. I'm only merely asking that they consider me among their options. Call anytime and you can talk, no charge, to Vinar AR personally, and he will give you free and confidential legal info and advice. Now, that is, in my opinion, not to toot my own horn, a beautiful sales letter. Actually, not tooting my own horn, because I actually had an advertising professional write this for me. I couldn't write something like that myself. But this is what I'm talking about. You come up with your cornerstone content, your cornerstone message. I have all my offerings there, what I have to offer people. And this is the basis for my marketing. Even over on the right panel next to my picture, it has About Vinar AR. It says Vinar AR is an award-winning tax attorney ranked as a top lawyer in the field of tax law by D-Business, Detroit's premier business journal. Mr. AR has a Master of Laws in Taxation, the highest degree available in tax, held only by a small number of the country's attorneys. That is it. That's my cornerstone content. That's my offerings. That's what I have to offer them right here in my brochure. I also have some testimonials in the blue box. Okay? And that's how it's done. You come up with this content first and then build everything else around it. And I'm going to show you what that means. Here is my homepage. Okay? You notice, first of all, I don't have that much on my homepage. It's not too busy. It's got kind of a lot, but it doesn't look cluttered. I got my phone number on the top right. That's one of my design elements with the little phone thing and then the number. And then you see the big image, and it's got the main text. It says, there is no need to face your tax problem alone. We will help you protect your bank accounts and property. Where have we seen that before? Right on the front of the brochure. Okay? And then there's not much else as far as content on the page. I have my calls to action. You see, I do use yellow. You know, you have to have attention-grabbing colors, but it's not school bus yellow. I have the yellow form fill on the left-hand side of the page, and it says, I'm sorry, on the right-hand side of the page, and it says free legal advice. That's my offering. Fill out the form. If you read in the box, it says, tell us about your problem. We'll get back to you. But notice there's not that much there. I don't have big flashy like starbursts and bright colors or anything like that. I don't have really much sales copy on the homepage because, you know, people don't go on your homepage looking for that kind of copy. I have a video. I have a short thing that says Meet Vinar AR. And then I have some reviews. When you scroll down some more, you'll see reviews, testimonials. Now, if you were to click About on my webpage, it takes you to this page. Now look at the copy right under the picture. Vinar AR and its firm are truly competent and ethical tax lawyers who will vigorously defend your rights. We know how to ... That is the exact word-for-word copy from my brochure. Okay? I use it everywhere. Everything you see, you'll start to recognize that copy. Here it is on my About page. Here it is on my Services page. You see, tax law is all we do, and we know how things actually work at the IRS. That is taken word for word from my brochure. My brochure is like a printed version of my website. Okay, now, also on my page is my hero video. Videos are huge. If you're not doing video, you're not doing marketing right. Okay, so one of the main, most prominent things right on my homepage is my what we call handshake video, my introduction video on people to get to know me and my firm. Now we're going to spend the next couple minutes watching the video, and then we'll come back and talk about what we saw. Hi, I'm Vinar AR, Principal Tax Attorney at AR Law. And you're probably watching this video right now because you're facing a tax problem. Maybe it's that you haven't filed in a while, or perhaps you owe the IRS and can't afford to pay them back. Or it could be that you're facing an IRS audit or investigation. And that's scary because the IRS can freeze your bank accounts, garnish your wages,
and seize your property without even taking you to court first. So you probably need to speak with a tax lawyer. And it doesn't necessarily need to be us, but taking action is important. And here's a tip. When you call a firm for tax help, ask to speak directly with a tax lawyer, because there are scammers out there who won't let you. Here at AR Law, solving tax problems is all we do. So we know how things actually work at the IRS, and we can favorably resolve your tax issue. We're here to defend your rights, and we can protect your bank accounts and your property, stop the IRS from harassing you, negotiate settlements for a fraction of the amount. Plus, we deal with state tax problems too. And we also help businesses who have fallen behind on their taxes. And we're expert at criminal tax defense as well.
Vinar AR, principal and founder of AR Law, is an award-winning attorney ranked as a top lawyer in the field of tax law. Attorney AR holds a Master's of Law in Taxation, which is the highest degree available in tax, held only by a small number of the country's lawyers. Vinar frequently speaks at events for accountants, educating them on tax law issues.
When you interview tax lawyers, the first consultation should be free. The attorney should be willing to broadly review your case, then give you some general thoughts and free legal advice. During this call, you can judge the attorney's experience and character. So the two most important things to remember are, 1, watch out for so-called tax resolution companies. Many of them are known to be scammers that use dishonest and aggressive salespeople to get you to give them money. And 2, make sure your tax lawyer explains exactly what their plan of action is before you hire them. They should be able to tell you specifically how they plan to solve your tax problem and give you an idea of how much it's going to cost. The other thing is to understand that you have options. A good tax lawyer aggressively negotiates settlements for you, has a deep knowledge of the law and tax agency inner workings, and can defend your rights as a citizen. And of course, consider AR Law, a very reputable tax law firm. We favor an individualized approach to solving your tax problems. Call us anytime, free of charge, and you can have a complimentary strategy session with one of our senior tax attorneys. Best of luck in resolving your tax issues and finding the right lawyer to defend your rights.
Okay, so now that is the video that I did. Notice the first thing that you saw on the video is I didn't talk about myself. Okay, it starts out, hi, I'm Vinar AR. You're probably watching this right now because you're facing a tax problem, and that can be scary. So right from the get-go, I'm making it all about the audience. You. I'm not saying me. Everybody's natural tendency, especially in a video like this, is they want to talk about how great they are and how great their firm is, and they think that that's what people need to hear. I got news for you. You're not as important in other people's minds as you are in your own mind. People don't want to hear about you. They want to hear about themselves. It wasn't until you get about 1 minute and 20 seconds into the video that you start to hear about me, okay? And there's only about 10 or 12 seconds about it. And what do they say about me? It's the same copy from the brochure. Vinar AR is an award-winning tax attorney, ranked as a top lawyer in the field. You guys have heard this over and over again. You'll start to see everything that I say and do in my marketing comes from bits and pieces of my brochure. This is my cornerstone copy. I mean it when I say you come up with your main copy and then build everything else around it, because you have to be consistent. You have to pound your message in over and over and over again, and you always have to be on message. Everything should work together to hammer in certain points that you want your audience to see. You know, mine is very clear. Now that you've seen my marketing, you can see that all of my content comes from my brochure. It all hammers in the same points, talks about the same ideas, gives the same offers in the same words, because in marketing, it's all about repetition. People have to hear the message over and over and over again before it finally sinks in. So now, here is another example of my cornerstone copy in action. This is a snippet of a letter that I send to people who've had tax liens filed against them. And you see on the top it says guidelines, and it's got 5 guidelines to solving your tax problem. I'll let you guys in on a little secret. That letter is the exact same words that are in my brochure. It's just a little bit, one is a little longer than the other. I forgot which one has a couple extra sentences than the other, but it's all the same thing. You keep hammering in the same copy. Now this is something that I've done differently. This is, remember how I said you can have 2 different versions of your sales copy? This is a letter that you guys have probably all gotten in the mail several times over the past, course of time. This is my sales copy that I use for accountants and attorneys who want to send me business. And it's a good tax lawyer in your corner, free legal advice for fellow tax professionals. And then you go in and the letter speaks to a different audience. It's not 5 guidelines to solving your tax situation. It's all about how you can help your clients and what kind of advice I can give you and what kind of questions you can ask me. You guys have all probably seen this letter. You've all probably gotten it multiple times in the mail. This is my alternate version of my Cornerstone copy. This speaks to a different audience than the first one. Again, you don't have to just have one. You can have different messages for as many different audiences as you want to reach to, but you have to be consistent with your audience. Whatever audience gets this copy keeps getting this copy, and it speaks directly to them. So this is just another example of some of my principles in action. So that brings us to our next polling question. So now we're going to start talking about actually some specific marketing techniques that you can use to start getting your phones ringing pretty much right away. And the first of those is referral marketing. So what is referral marketing? It's the easiest way for established practitioners to get prospects quickly and cheaply. Okay, spreading word of mouth, spread the word about your services, and wait for people to send you clients. The reason I say it's the easiest way for established practitioners, if you're already a lawyer, you're already an accountant, you already have a book of business to reach into. You already have an audience, you have a client list, you have colleagues, your common referral sources are current and former clients, colleagues, and other professionals. You can only get so far with your current and former clients and with colleagues, people you personally know. That is a very effective audience. Those are people who know you and they like you and they refer you business. Go to lots of networking events, meet with lots of accountants and attorneys and other professionals. But by their nature, having to personally know all these people, there's a natural limit to how big you can grow. Eventually, you might want to think about just reaching out to other professionals and using paid advertising like I do. You guys have all got my letters. You guys have all seen my Facebook ads and my Google ads, seen my website. You're probably sick of seeing me and hearing about me. Because I'm trying to do things on a bigger scale, I have outgrown simply just going to networking events and passing out business cards. But, when I got my start, that's how I got a lot of business. There's not a lot of people who know a tax lawyer, It's not like a divorce lawyer or a bankruptcy lawyer or a business lawyer. Those are a dime a dozen. In this industry, tax resolution, if you just ask your colleagues, who do you know that does tax resolution? That most of them probably don't personally know anybody who offers these services, and the ones they probably do know of are some of the big companies, and they probably don't have a very good opinion of them. So the easiest way to start getting referrals is just to let everybody know that you're here, what you do, how you can help them. Okay. Now, when you're doing referral marketing and you're doing events, it's very important that you come up with some people call it your elevator pitch. I've heard it called your magic statement before. It's something very similar to your unique selling proposition. You have to think of the answer to what do you do? Because that's what everybody asks each other in marketing. Oh, what do you do? And what do you do? And I can't tell you how bad people are at answering that question. Well, I used to be terrible at it. I used to say, well, I'm a tax lawyer. And that was the first thing that came out of my mouth. Well, great. What does that mean? You're a tax lawyer. Great. What do you do is the question. So you have to come up with a statement. Who do you help? What can you do for them? How do you do it? And make it a concise sentence. So the way it was described to me one time is, imagine somebody's coming to your office and they're on their way to come see you, and they see a sign in the hallway that says, go this way for the magician. And the magician can just wave his magic wand and solve their problem. This way for a tax lawyer, that way for the magician with the magical powers. Who are they going to go to? Well, they're going to go to the magician. They don't care what your credentials are. They don't care what your qualifications are. All they care about is what can you do for them. Okay, and then that magician, what will they ask him to do? And whatever your ideal prospect would ask the magician to do when he waves his magic wand, that's your magic statement. Get it? The magic statement. My magic statement is, I provide peace of mind for individuals and businesses who are facing tax problems. That's what I do. That's a benefit, not a feature. The benefit is you get peace of mind from me. That's what I offer. I am a tax lawyer, but that's not what I am first. People don't come to me because I'm a tax lawyer. They don't just wake up one day and say, oh, I think I'm going to give my money to a tax lawyer today. No, they come to me because they have a problem and they need me to solve it. And when somebody asks me, what do you do? I solve tax problems so that people can have peace of mind. Okay? There's various ways you can say it, but when you get into referral marketing, you have to think of your magic statement. If you don't think of something, then people will just forget you. They'll want to remember you by what you do, and if you just talk about yourself and your qualifications and your credentials, then you kind of just get lost in the shuffle. Now, how to drive referrals. 1, build relationships. Try to make people feel like they know you on a personal level. Notice I didn't say you have to get to know them. Ideally, that's how they get to know you, is reciprocal. But sometimes, when you're doing things on a bigger scale, I do a lot of webinars, I do a lot of seminars, I do a lot of public speaking, and I can't personally know everybody in my audience, but everybody in their audience feels like they know me. I put pictures of my kids, I talk about my kids, I show them pictures, I do these seminars every year for tax updates for accountants, and there's about 1,000 accountants that come to my seminars, and they all feel like they know me on a personal level because I connect with them on the stage by sharing personal details about my life. I don't know them. It's impossible for me to get to know all those people. You can only remember so many people, but they all know me. And I get referrals every single day. If there's a day where I don't get a referral, it's a bad day. They don't happen that often anymore. Then you have to clearly communicate your offerings. Okay. Remember, I talked about the magic statement for doing it in person. Also, letters, snail mail are surprisingly effective way to reach people. People get less and less mail than they used to. Junk mail used to get lost in the shuffle. Now people aren't used to getting letters. But the trick is you have to give them a reason to hang on to your contact info and remember you. Mine is, I am a free resource in your practice. If you have a tax procedure question, if you have a client who has a problem and you don't know how to solve it, I'm only one phone call away. You guys have all heard me say this probably 100 times. Just call my firm and ask me questions. That's my reason. Why should you hang on to my number? Because you never know when you might need it. You never know when you have a client who says, oh my gosh, I owe the IRS $1 million. I don't know what to do. And then you can pick up the phone and call me and I will tell you what to do. And that is a very powerful reason why somebody would want to hang on to my business card. Okay? And then you have to stay in touch. You need to send newsletters and updates regularly. Once a month, once a quarter, always should be emailing. You should be posting on social media. You need to stay in touch and stay top of mind with your followers. And then, of course, do a great job. Happy clients refer more clients. If you get a referral from somebody, do a great job for his client or her client so that they can tell their referral source, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you referred me to what's his name because he was so amazing. And then that person will go out looking for more people, because I'll let you in on a little secret. When somebody refers you a client and you do a great job, you make yourself look good, but you also make them look good. make your referral sources feel like a rock star. Okay? Show your appreciation. When somebody sends you a referral, thank them, call them, send them a letter, send them an email, send them a thank you card, but most importantly, do a phenomenal job for their clients. Whenever somebody refers me a case, I always go out of my way to show so much gratitude, or my office does sometimes. I don't always talk to them directly. It's, oh my gosh, thank you so much. It really means a lot to me that you would trust me with your clients. I know that the job I do is a reflection on you, and I won't let you down. Okay? I always treat my referral clients like VIPs, because it's not just about them, it's about you. So when you send me your client, I want you to rest assured that they get VIP treatment in my office, and I will not let you down, because I know how much you had to trust me to send me your clients. Think about it. You know, when you refer your clients somewhere, sometimes I don't even refer people. If I don't know somebody personally who's going to do a great job, I don't want to refer you, because the worst thing I want is that for me to send you somewhere that you're not happy with. I didn't make any money. I didn't have any control over your experience. But if you have a bad experience, you're going to blame me. So you have to make sure that your referral partners understand that you don't take that lightly. And then when you do that, oh my gosh, thank you. I have the smallest cases come in by referrals, but they get treated better than some of my biggest clients, because it's not about them. It's about the person who referred them. And you have to treat their clients great, to show them how much you appreciate the referral, and you have to really give it your all to do the best job imaginable. So next steps, how do you get your referrals? How do you get your referral marketing program in place? One, compile your list. Okay, you all have Outlook or your email provider. You all have a client list. You all have a colleague list. Start putting that together. You know, put together the list. There's all kinds of CRMs, all kinds of tools, or you can have Excel spreadsheets, or you put them all in your email program. Try to keep your contacts organized. Keep your accountants marked as accountants, your clients marked as clients, realtors marked as realtors, so on and so forth. That way, when you want to send targeted messaging, you have the breakdown of who's who. You should never stop building your list, and you should try to get email and physical addresses for everyone. You never know when you might want to send them an email. You never know when you might want to send them a letter. When accountants refer me clients, I always get their name, their email, their phone number. I don't ask them for their address, because that's just annoying. But what I do is I go on Google and I find their address and I put it in my system. You know, I don't ask them because some people, they just want to get on with the call, and sometimes when you ask people too many questions, it kind of annoys them. So like they call my office and say, oh, I have a question, or I have a client I want to refer you. Great, give me your name, give me your email, give me your phone number. Then I continue on with their conversation, because I know when they're in the business of accounting, you know, their address isn't going to be that hard to find. I just, you know, simple Google search is usually all it takes. Then you get your list, you draft your messaging, which we already talked about in step 1. Okay, you should introduce yourself and or announce your new services, and you should create a sequence or 2 to 3 attempts. You shouldn't just send one letter or one offering or one communication. Really, it should be 7 to 10 touches, but maybe 2 or 3 of those should be in letter form. And then you deploy your message. Email blast is cheapest, but it's least effective. I'm a huge fan of direct mail. I think it works phenomenally well, as long as you can get them to open the envelopes. We'll talk more about direct mail later. And then follow up. You know, plan to send your message 2 to 3 times, 30 days apart. You should always refer back to your previous message. I like self-mailers, you know, stuff that doesn't go in an envelope that you just print the address on. Like my brochure can be done as a self-mailer. There's space on the back where they can put the address on. They put a little wafer seal and put it in the mail. Then you don't have to worry about the barrier of getting them to open the envelope. You know, it comes to them with your message right on there. And then, you know, regular newsletters are a crucial tip for a long-term referral strategy. It's all about staying in touch. Okay, so now another way that you guys can market your firm, another common way, is through what's called tax lien marketings. Remember that when the IRS files a tax lien against somebody, it is a public record. There's 2 ways to get the information. You can get it by searching court records, you know, manually, and you can get all the lien filings, or you can use a data aggregator. There are companies that are in the business of compiling public data and selling them. There's a website called taxlienlists.net. and you can pay them, and they'll send you every week or every month or every how often you want to order it, a list of all the notices of federal tax lien that were filed. Okay, then once you have that list, you can send a direct mail marketing campaign to the people. You should use 2 to 4, I say 2 to 3, but 2 to 4 efforts about 30 days apart. Okay, people don't usually call after the first letter. You send them a few letters, and then sometimes they won't even call until 6 months after you send them a letter. If you send a good letter, you give them reason enough to remember you, they might hang on to your information and call you 6 months later. So I like to send a mix of letters, postcards, and self-mailer brochures. Again, because not everybody opens the letter. Half the battle is getting them to open the envelope. My technique is to make it not look like advertising. It doesn't say anything on the front, doesn't say special offer inside or anything like that. It's just a number 10 envelope that has my logo on the top that says AR Law. I don't even use my tagline because I don't necessarily want them to know that it's a tax law firm. Because remember, when somebody has a tax lien, they're getting marketed from hundreds of companies, and you have to set yourself apart. So mine just says AR Law, all black logo, no tagline, and it's got their address in a plain number 10 envelope. I don't put my brochure in the envelope. I just put a letter and sometimes a business card because I don't want it to be heavy. I don't want them to feel like there's advertisements inside. When somebody gets my letter, it looks like important communication from a lawyer. They might think that they're getting sued. All they see is AR Law in a plain number 10 envelope. And I don't want to say tricks them because some advertisers really do trick people. They try to make them think that they're the government to open the letter. I don't trick them. It's stealth. They don't know it's an advertisement until they open the letter and start to read it. Because if you get a letter in the mail from a lawyer and it doesn't say anything, it just says AR Law and it's addressed to you, and you feel it and it feels like there's only one piece of paper in there, you're probably going to open it because you don't know, what does this lawyer want with me? He might be suing me. Open the letter. Even if you're getting dozens of solicitation letters from other tax companies, I don't use my tagline. You don't even know. It just says AR Law. You don't know that this is about your taxes until it's too late. Once you open the letter, I got you. Okay, but even that doesn't work for everybody. Some people still, half of them won't open the letter. That's why I like to use self-mailers. Okay, I like to use brochures and postcards that are mailed without an envelope because they don't have to open it. They don't have a choice but to at least see the outside of your brochure or at least one side of your postcard. So again, here is what my letters look like. Ignore the red text on the top. That's just instructions for the letter shop. But see, I have their address. It's got my logo in all black, and on the top it says guidelines. At first glance, this kind of looks like an IRS letter. It looks like an official notice of some kind. It looks like an IRS letter because that's just most official letters look like this, where they have important information on the top right that show what this is about, and it talks about your tax lien. And then below, it goes through the guidelines. So that's effort one. People get this as the first thing they get when they have a tax lien filed against them. Within about a month, they'll get one of these letters in the mail. Okay? And then about a month later, they get a follow-up letter. Now, it looks very similar. You wouldn't know the difference if I didn't highlight them in blue. I don't send it with the blue text. I just have the blue text on there so you can see how I change it. In the guidelines section on the top right, I have follow-up. And then I have a blue line that talks about a follow-up on your tax situation. You always, to be effective on your second letter, you always should call out the first letter. We previously mailed you a letter about this. It looks like you haven't responded. Here's the information again. So you refer to the old letter. That's my effort two. Okay, then about a month later, they get one of these postcards in the mail. Here's what it looks like front and back. Now this is another one of the things that I try to use to set myself apart from my competition is that if you ask around, or some of you guys might know, that tax resolution industry does not have a good reputation. There's a lot of scammers in this business. And a lot of companies known for just telling people what they want to hear, get them to fork over some money, and they don't really do anything. Unfortunately, it's just a fact of life. And now I try to put myself in the consumer's shoes. They're getting letters from dozens and dozens of these companies. I try to do something to set myself apart, and that is this postcard. again, some of the text is blue just to call out the differences. I always send it with black text. I never type in color. All your texts should always be black or white. And then my postcard doesn't ask them to hire me. It just says, hey, watch out, there's scammers out there. And the Attorney General has come out with a consumer alert, that yellow document that says tax debt resolution scams. I didn't design that. I don't use that yellow color in my designs. This is actually a document that was put out by the Attorney General to warn people about the dangers of tax resolution scams. I send it on the postcard, and I try to get them to go to my website to download it. And then once they're on my website, they can learn more about me, hopefully get on my list. There's videos there. Hopefully that will nudge them to call me. But this is real stealth marketing. I'm not asking them to call me. If you look at it, I think there might be an invitation that says that they can call with questions, but the copy isn't trying to get them to call me. It's just, hey, be careful out there. I know you're getting dozens and dozens of communications. Here's some tips how to spot the good companies from the fake companies from the Attorney General. This is not what I say. This is what, at the time that this was released, it was Bill Schuette was the name of the Attorney General in Michigan. Now it's somebody else. But so I try to give them credibility and try to kind of take the high road. So then that's that third effort. Then about a month later, they will get my brochure. You guys have seen this already. I'm not going to go through it again, except the only difference is this is the self-mailer version. Notice on the back flap, which is in the center of your page, it's got their address right on it. It's got the mailing permit for the bulk mail guys. And it's designed so that this goes in the mail all by itself without an envelope. So that way they don't need to open the envelope to see it. And again, on the inside flap of the brochure, I have a call out to the Attorney General warning. And then, of course, on the inside of the brochure is the same copy that we have already gone through. So that is a very, very common way to get your tax resolution clients is through tax lien marketing. You just download the list. They're surprisingly cheap and start sending letters. Now, on to my favorite type of advertising, digital advertising. Okay. So what is digital advertising? I'm talking about distributing your message through paid channels on the internet. I'm not talking about SEO and fixing up your website. I'm talking about spending money to get your ads in front of people. This is the best way to advertise on a limited budget because you can hyper target your audience based on almost any criteria. If you only want 10 people to see your ads, then only 10 people have to see your ads. It's not like doing radio or TV where you have to broadcast to a whole area. You can set your budget and you tell them how much you want to spend. Okay. It can be the most expensive too on a per lead basis. There are cons, but you can do it with the smallest budget. And I'll tell you, this is how I got my start. When I started my firm, it was September 1, 2012. I had maxed out pretty much all my credit cards to get my office, to get my furniture, to get my computers. I was new to town professionally. I never worked in the city before. I didn't have any clients. I didn't know anybody outside of my personal connections. So how do I get my first business? I gave my last $5,000 on my credit card to Google, and I ran AdWords campaigns, search engine marketing. When you type something on Google, the top results are usually paid ads. And then that is the most common method of digital advertising. It's also the most expensive. There's also display advertising. That's where you show banner ads on Google AdWords Display Network. You go to all these websites and you see the advertisements on yahoo.com or cnn.com or whatever website you go to. There's ads everywhere, and those are usually served through Google. They lease their space to Google, and you go on Google, so you don't have to contract with every single website that visits your ad. It's all done through the Google network. Then there's social media advertising on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, and then there's YouTube video ads. Those are the common digital ad channels. I'm going to tell you a couple minutes about each one. The first is search engine marketing. This is the fastest return on investment. Could be the most expensive. This is where you pay every time somebody clicks on your ad. You create a list of keywords and search strings that your target prospect might search for, and then you bid on them. Okay, you can further target by demographics and placements. and you create ads specifically targeted to your groups, and then everything is auction style. Okay, you create the search term you want to bid on, you create the ad you want to show, you create the audience that you want to do, and then the way it does, every time you run a Google search, I don't know if you guys know how Google makes their money, every time you have a Google search, there's a little mini auction running in the back end. And they're bidding spots on Google, just those spots that say ad on the top. So here's what a Google search looks like. I don't know what I help with IRS tax that I think is what I typed. Notice the first 4 results all say ad next to them. Those are all placed through Google AdWords, and they're auctioned off. These clicks can cost as much as like $70 just to get one person to click on your website. There are short-term tail keywords where somebody says tax attorney is probably the most expensive search in the space. Then there's long tail keywords where they say, oh, what expenses are allowed on a 433A form for housing and utilities, or something like a very specific search. Those are usually less expensive. Those are known as long tail searches. But every time somebody runs a search, there's a little auction. And if you click on one of these ads, somebody has to pay Google. Now notice the top spot. This is an Optima tax relief ad. Notice how big their ad is. There's actually 4 different ways to get a hold of them. You can click the ad, their phone number's right there. There's 2 other offerings, 2 other pages. This is an extended search engine ad. This can be the fastest way. You give Google money today, somebody will call you tomorrow if you do it right. Okay, it's that fast a return on investment. Sometimes marketing and branding, to be effective is a long-term play, but sometimes when you're just starting out, you don't have a long term to wait. You can't just send letters and brand and over the course of a few years build your brand. Sometimes you need to pay the bills now, and it's almost gambling. You send your money to Google. I mean, I say almost gambling, but it's very much a skill. You write effective ads, you do your keyword planning, or you hire a good firm to do it for you, then you should pretty much get an immediate return. Okay. Then the other option is banner ads that run on the Google Display Network. Again, those are the advertisements you see on all the websites you go to. There's all kinds of ways you can target. There's something called retargeting where you can go after people who previously visited your website. So they go on your website, they get this cookie on their computer, and then everywhere they go for the next 60 days, they just see your ad everywhere. That's called retargeting. You can target based on demographics, age, household size, where they live. There's also something called a custom intent audience, where you can put in search strings, and you put in the way people search online, but you're not actually bidding to be at the top of those searches. You're profiling consumers. Somebody who's been searching for a tax attorney has a custom intent, and then you can show them, banner ads on their websites. So this is different than search engine marketing. This is display advertising with banner ads, but you target your audience based on their searches. Then there's something called a custom affinity audience. Then there's something called a lookalike audience where you can upload your customers and they'll find you people like them. That's called a lookalike audience. Social media advertising. If you're going to get into social media, concentrate on Facebook, Instagram. They have all the power. It's the least expensive there. If you go to LinkedIn, it starts to get a lot more expensive. Should create a mix of sponsored posts, sponsored videos, and display ads. You can target in similar ways to Google, but there's also additional targeting available. You can do interest targeting. You can also do list matching. So list matching is where you upload a specific set of people and they try to find them, and you can advertise to those particular people. You can also build a lookalike audience based on a list, kind of like you can with Google, or you can just advertise a specific list. And then there's also occupation targeting. You can try to get somebody based on their occupation. That works better on LinkedIn than on Facebook. And then video ads. If you're going to run video ads, focus on short videos. Run them for 15 seconds or less. Make sure to talk directly to your audience and make sure that you get their attention immediately. People's attention spans are just getting shorter and shorter and shorter. You only have a couple seconds to get their attention, and make sure your video is about them. Okay, so now we're going to spend a couple minutes talking about how to drive organic traffic to your website. Okay, by organic traffic, I mean people that you don't have to pay to get on your website. The focus is on being found in the search results. Okay, it's the cheapest long-term strategy for generating leads. You don't have to spend $1 on this to do it right, but you do have to invest a lot of time. Okay, so what we're referring to now is SEO, also known as search engine optimization. Okay, so what is that? That is the process, the techniques to get yourself higher up in the Google rankings. But watch out for snake oil salesmen or what's known as black hat tacticians. Those are even worse. Black hat tacticians are people who do things that are against Google's policies to get you higher up in the rankings. They will get you punished. Okay? Google can sandbox your site and they can drop you in the rankings if they think you're trying to manipulate their search results. SEO is not about manipulating Google. It's about building the best website that fits within the search engine's guidelines and that gives the user what they want. That's how you get high up in the rankings, by giving the user what they want. The SEO industry is probably the only industry that has a worse reputation than tax resolution industry. Okay, it's full of people who will tell you what you want to hear just to get you to give them money. In all actuality, they don't really do anything to help you. So watch out who you deal with. The best SEO is no SEO. You should focus on the user experience, not on the search engines. You build the site for the visitor, not for Google. Okay? It's a fine line because if you do it right for the visitor, then Google will recognize you. Focus on site speed, organization, indexing, caching, optimizing your image files, creating a site tree so that Google can crawl it easier. Make sure all your content links to each other. There are website analyzer tools that'll tell you, they'll look at your website and tell you what they think. One of them that's popular and free is called GTmetrix. You go to gtmetrix.com, you put in your domain, and they'll check to see how fast and how good it runs. That's the first component. You have to have a good website that loads fast and is organized and easy to browse. And then the second component is you have to deliver high quality, sticky content. What do I mean by sticky content? Keep the user on the page. The way Google ranks on the search engine is they try to give you the most relevant search result for your search. That's how they keep people going back. And the way that they know what's relevant is they measure for people who search this particular phrase, how long did they stay on your page after they click it? If they didn't stay very long, then your page is probably not relevant to that search term. So if you deliver good content that's sticky, that's engaging, that people will read and they will stay on your page. Okay, back in the old days, SEO had a lot to do with keyword stuffing, and people were doing keyword density, and they said, oh, you have to come up with your keywords, and they have to be in your content at this rate and this many times, and they were trying to find creative ways just to use the keyword, and what resulted is a bunch of crappy content that you can read, and you can tell that it was written for Google, not for the human being looking at it. Do not do that. Focus on delivering high quality content that your users demand, that's relevant to something that they might be looking for on a page, on a website that's fast. The more content, the better. You should never stop writing. I have thousands of blog posts on my website. I'm posting them all the time because each blog post is like another advertisement. It's another search, another question that somebody might look at to get answered that would land them on my page. Quality content is key. Fast websites and optimized websites are the other part. If you do those things right, then you don't have to worry about backlinks and SEO and hiring professionals. Just focus on having the most kick-ass website on the internet, period. If you do that, you will get found. So this is what a Google search looks like. I showed you earlier what the ads look like. Okay, this is what some of the organic searches look like. I think, what did I search? I cheated on my taxes and got caught. I put that into Google, and you notice there are no ads. This is too long tail. Nobody's actually this would be a good keyword to buy. You can probably get this click for under $1 because nobody else is advertising on it. And then you notice on the page, it's got all the organic results. The most relevant one on the top, I am somewhere on that page. I think I'm number 3. It says, so you cheated on your tax returns, AR Law. It's the third result down. Takes you to one of my blog posts. You know, like I said, I have thousands of these blog posts. Some of them get hits. Some of them just get lost in the oblivion, you know, in the black hole that is the internet. I've had some blog posts that have made me tens of thousands of dollars because they got lucky and I got a high volume search term. I wouldn't say lucky. It was great content. And then I got, you know, I had one search for a while. If you Googled how to settle with the IRS, the IRS was first result, the IRS was second result, and I was third result. And I got hundreds of hits. I can't even count how many clients I got from just that one article alone. But the key is you have to play the numbers and you have to keep writing because you never know which ones are going to be, you know, the home runs and which ones aren't. So also local SEO. We're talking about improving your ranking in Google Maps results. This is becoming more and more important. People are doing local searches. If they say tax attorney in Michigan, tax attorney near me, you know, I want tax help in my area. You know, there's a kind of local searches. When you do a local search, Google will show local results. To get high up there, make sure you complete your Google My Business profile, including pictures of your business. Make sure you complete all your other local business listings. It's not just about your Google page. Google will look, they want to know if your business is in business, if you have the same address, if your address is accurate. So what they'll do is they'll look at all the other directory websites and see if your listing is there. If it's on yellowpages.com, Yelp, Facebook, Bing, they're looking for consistent information. So your address should be formatted exactly the same on every single website. You know, there's avo.com for attorneys, findlaw.com. There's a billion of these directory websites. You have to get on every one of them and you have to make sure that your address is identical and consistent so that Google trusts the information that you have on their profile, that this is a real business with a valid address. I use a listing management service called Yext, Y-E-X-T. And what that is a platform where you can just put your information there and they send them to all the listing sites for you because, you know, the first time I moved, it took me months to try to track down my old address on every single website and update it. And it was just too difficult and it hurt my SEO because the address wasn't consistent. So finally, I just figured out that you should just hire a company to maintain it because if you ever have to change something, it takes forever. And the other thing about local SEO is get as many reviews as possible. You should build a system that's conducive to getting reviews. People don't review you on their own. You have to ask for them, and you have to ask for them at the right time, and you have to remind them. I get all my reviews when people call for free advice. I'll answer their questions, and then I'll ask them, was that helpful? Would you mind putting something on the internet nice about me? I'll send them an email with a link. If they don't leave me a review, I'll remind them again, and then they do. So this is what a Google Maps listing looks like. This was the search for, tax attorney in my area or tax attorney in Michigan. I don't know what I searched for offhand, but this is what it looks like. You can see up top there's an ad, and then it shows the local results. And look at mine. I'm the first one on the local results. Look at my reviews. I have almost 200 reviews with a 5-star average. Compare that to the next one behind me that have like 7 reviews or something like that. The reviews not only get you ranked, but they also set you apart from everybody else who ranks with you or behind you. You know, when you see those 3 options on the screen, who do you think people are going to call first? You know, it's a no-brainer. The one who's got 200 reviews. And if you read the reviews, it's all like the ones I talked about earlier. So that's enough about SEO. That's a very basic. I can talk for hours just on that. We're going to have to move on. So now we're going to get to our next polling question before we move on to our last topic. Okay, so now moving on, the last marketing technique I'm going to talk to you about is inbound marketing. This is the game changer. This is the secret. What is inbound marketing? It's using quote-unquote lead magnets and other methods to get people to opt into your list. Then you nurture those leads and keep in touch with them until the right time to call them. When you're doing traditional advertising, it's all about getting the right consumer with the right message at the right time. With inbound marketing, the time variable is taken out because you get them at any time and then you just stay in touch with them until the time is right. Just because somebody had a tax lien filed against them doesn't mean they're in the market for an attorney. They might already be on an installment agreement. They might already have an attorney. So sending those messages, even the perfectly crafted message, if it's not the right time for the consumer, then it's going to fall on deaf ears. So with inbound marketing, the key is to build a list. Get people, offer them something in exchange for their email address. And then when you get their email address, keep emailing them every month, every week, relevant information. Don't annoy them. Don't try to do pushy sales. Give them useful information. Okay. And you'll find that when they're ready, they will just call you. They won't go on Google. You don't have to worry about who ranks the highest on Google anymore. They're already yours. You stake your claim to the client. When you offer them the lead magnet, they download the lead magnet. Now they're yours. When they're ready, they're going to call you first. Okay, so the name of this game is He Who Has the Biggest List Wins. The more people on your email distribution and your physical mail distribution list, every time you send a letter or a newsletter or email blast, you should get at least one call. Once you start getting a big list. You should develop multiple lead magnets and funnels. So now I'm going to show you what one of my lead magnets look like. If you go on my website, you see on the right-hand side, there's that pop-up that comes up that says free download, 5 guidelines to resolving your tax situation. So when you click on that free download, this pops up on your screen. Now, I don't ask for too much information. I'm not asking for address and phone number and date of birth and social, because the more you ask for, the more barriers you have. I need to get their information. So you ask them as few questions as possible. I just want your first name and your email address. I need your email address because I need to know where to send the messages to. And I need your first name because I need to know what to call you. I don't need any other information, although I'd like to have as much as possible. The more you ask, the less forms you're going to get, so I keep it down. You put in your first name and your email, you click the red button, and it just takes you to this thank you page. It says, hey, we downloaded, we emailed you your 5 guidelines, but click this link if you just want to download them and look at them now. I like to deliver it both ways because some people want to consume the information right away. And the information is sales copy. I want them to read it. They might not notice it if it goes to their email later. So I deliver it in their email so they can look at it later. And I also give them a link if they want to look at it now. And then my lead magnet is called the 5 Guidelines for Handling Your Tax Situation. Download it. It's for free. Once you get it, I got you. You're on my list. And then the 5 Guidelines was easy to do because you guessed it. It is the same content that's in my brochure. Anybody can get it free. It's on my website. I mail it to thousands of people every month. It's in my brochure. This information is not really exclusive. You don't have to give me your email address to get it. I want as many people to read it as possible, but it's a gimmick to get people's email addresses. So here's what it looks like. These are the guidelines. You will need to take action. Your first move is very important. Interview your tax lawyer. Gather information. Understand that you have options. Those are the 5 pointers from my brochure. And then I have my sales copy. AR Law is a reputable and ethical firm. We favor an individualized approach during this stressful time. Call and download. So the thing about the lead magnet is hopefully they're going to download it and they're just going to pick up the phone and call me right away. More likely they're going to just download it. They probably won't even look at it. And then they're going to put everything on the back burner because when it comes to tax problems, the people you're dealing with aren't exactly diligent and on top of things. They tend to put things off, and then they'll put it off, and then you keep emailing them, and eventually their bank account will get garnished. They'll get a knock on the door from a revenue officer. Something will happen that will not, give them the option of waiting. They can't put it outside anymore. And the goal with inbound marketing is when that thing happens, don't let them go on Google to find a tax attorney. They're already on your list. They should say, let me look up that company that's been emailing me, and then they call you first. That's inbound marketing. This is the future or the current digital marketing. This is what the name of the game, the most effective long-term strategy for getting leads cheaply is to develop these lead magnets or special reports or whatever you want to call them and get people to download them and then keep them on their list. So then we move on in my lead magnet to the page about me. Again, this is the same copy from my brochure. This is not anything new. Then you have the testimonials, which are very important social proof. You got to put them everywhere. And then I have the last page with, again, pictures that should look familiar and my phone number one more time and an invitation to call me. So that's all I have to say about inbound marketing. So thank you all for joining me. Hopefully you found the content today informative and enlightening and that you guys learned a little bit about marketing. Don't forget, if you have any questions about this or about how to solve tax problems in general, don't hesitate to call me. My phone number is on the screen, and information and advice are always free of charge. Thank you.